Yay! Welcome back. I am Ashley Turner, and I'm so thrilled and honored to have my very dear friend joining us today, Kate Northrup. Hi, thank you so much for being on the blog.
Thank you.
Kate is an amazing powerhouse. We met several years ago, and we've been in touch, and we talk every so often, and just I love everything that you're up to, but Kate's book. She's the author of the new book that is out this week. It's called Money, a Love Story, which, by the way, I love the title of it. As soon as I saw that, I was so happy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a real transformation of the whole conversation around money. But Kate is teaching women about freedom, financial freedom, from an emotional perspective, but also from a very practical perspective. So it's a really holistic approach to transforming our relationship with money, our relationship with our finances, and one thing that she really emphasizes is this concept of financial freedom from the inside out. So please check it out on katenorthrup.com and buy the book, Money, a Love Story. But we are here to just get down and dirty about money. And I think that that's actually what it is for me, like down and dirty, because it's a conversation that so many people are not in a really conscious and enjoyable way. I think money brings up just so much tension for people.
It really does.
Yeah. I want to just start with, how did you come up with the title? Because I love it so much.
Well, so the first chapter of my book was, it's not this anymore, but the original first chapter title was Me and Money, a Love Story. Because I honestly, I don't know, I know that you also do writing, and I find that when I write, I recently went and reread the book for the final round of edits and stuff, and I don't remember writing much of it. So there's just like, I don't know where it comes from. It just comes. But anyway, so then my agent saw the title of the first chapter, and we were working with different titles, and he was like, why don't you call the book Money, a Love Story? So I have to give a shout out to my amazing agent, David Fugit, for that.
I love that. Well, I think that having those two words together, I read a book in graduate school when I was getting my master's in psychology, and we had a course about money and people's hang-ups and blocks and breakthroughs around money. And it's a book called Money is Love, which I love, and it's all about the energy. Yeah.
Like, where can I'll write it down afterwards.
Yeah, I'll put it in a link below. But it's all about that. Money is energy, and if we really get down to it, the two choices of choosing love or choosing fear. So around money, there's so much fear that's ingrained, and scarcity mentality, and we're going to talk about that. But so really from the very beginning, naming it love. I love that.
Yeah, well, I think that for a lot of people, they get a little taken aback by associating money with love, and that's why I wanted to do it, because money is a part of our daily life. We're not going to get out this time around without dealing with money pretty much every day, several times a day. Mm-hmm. And so, like any good relationship, you need to infuse it with love and caring attention, just like if you had a child or a romantic partner or a best friend. Like, you have to love it in order to have that positive give and take and flow.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, how did you come to, because you're a self-help maven and have done so much work on yourself and tackle all, many other subjects, but how did money become really sort of your biggest passion, or this dharma for you?
That's a great question. So ever since I was a little girl, I actually just found like one of those little brochures I made in first grade, kind of like those About Me brochures, and it said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I had said that I wanted to be an accountant.
Wow.
Because I really loved money. Like, I just loved making money. I loved thinking about money. And I started my first business when I was 7 with my sister, and went on to start many, many businesses after that. And I was always really good at the making money part. But I did not fare so well with the managing money part. And so I got myself into over $20,000 worth of credit card debt and just a lot of financial unconsciousness. And I kind of had done a spiritual bypass where it was just like, I will do my affirmations, and I will have an abundance mindset, and I will act act as if I have the type of money I would like as a way to attract it in. And I didn't do the practical side of actually checking my bank account balance and paying attention to my bills and doing those things. So I got myself into a little bit of a hole there, and it really felt awful. And I felt like a fraud because I was building a business, teaching women about creating financial freedom, and behind the scenes, my financial life was kind of a mess. And so it was through coming out of that I really realized, oh, there's two very important sides to this puzzle. There's absolutely the emotional, spiritual aspect, but there really is this important aspect of showing up for your money and showing up for yourself in a loving way, as a way of having great, profound self-care. And so that's how the curriculum, as it were, just came about.
I love that, and it's so interesting because I actually have a very parallel story where, where I got myself into over $20,000 of credit card debt, and the shame that I experienced with that. It's sort of like the one big skeleton in my closet that nobody really knew about. It's like everything else is sort of out there, but nobody really talks about the money situation. I mean, I know myself with my girlfriends or even my family or my sisters. I mean, we talk maybe a little bit about it, but not like getting into the nuts and bolts, say how we do with relationships,
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting thing?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that, I was thinking about it this morning in preparation for this interview, and I was really, I think that for women in particular, and I do want to make this distinction because so much of your work is really about empowering women. Yeah. And I know from my family story, it's only really in this last generation that there's been financial freedom or a differentiation with women and money, where before it was very traditional gender roles. And in my parents, in their marriage, my dad worked full time, he was a lawyer, and he really made most of the financial decisions. And so my mom, it was just sort of this benign neglect we talk about in psychology. And so a lot of women aren't as educated financially. And I know I've talked to my sisters about this, for our generation, like really taking it on. We're single, a lot of us a lot longer. We're not married as early, if maybe ever. And yet there's still this very nebulous kind of lack of conversation and education around money.
Yeah, and that's, it's really an important piece, because that's why I wrote this book, was to spark the conversation. I mean, honestly, I think if women did nothing else other than talk more about money to their girlfriends, to their family, whatever, and ask questions. I mean, you don't have to ask somebody how much they make, but you could be asking, like, what kind of money management systems do you have, or whatever. One of the things that my fiance Mike and I have been doing over the last year is asking couples how they deal with money together.
I love that. Right? I love that.
And so we'll just be out to dinner with friends, and we just ask them, and it sparks always the most fascinating conversation, because everybody's got a little bit of a different system, and some people really have it nailed and dialed in, and you can tell they've talked about it, and you can tell this is like they're on it. And some people, it's really vague, and it's just kind of like, I don't want to talk about that. So the more we pay attention to things, right, the more they grow. And so if we want our abundance and our money basically to expand and that part of our life to grow, we have to talk about it. We have to pay attention to it.
What would you say are the first few tips? And it's interesting. I was thinking about this also this morning for myself. I went to USC, I went to college, got my undergraduate, but it was liberal arts major, and I never took any accounting classes. I never took any business classes. And then after a winding path, find myself as an entrepreneur, and really passionate entrepreneur, but actually not having the financial education and not having the pieces. And my sister, my younger sister, is in finance in New York City and got her MBA, and is really passionate and actually starting a startup on educating women about money. So
that's cool.
I know. I have to hook you guys up.
I'll have to find out about that later.
We'll have a lot to talk about. But so for you, what are sort of the first steps in someone that, there's a lot of entrepreneurs on, this blog and watching this, or just artists or yoga teachers or people that may not have had as much business finance education? What are the first steps for them to take?
Well, I really love taking the step of looking at your financial reality. So one of the best ways to heal shame, as you know from your psychology background, is to bring it to light, bring it to the light, and to start talking about it. Only with safe people, obviously.
Right.
Only with non-judgmental, loving, safe people. So you have to find those people. And if you don't know them and you are in a financial pickle of any kind, there's a great program that many people don't know about called Debtors Anonymous, which is part of the 12-step recovery program family. So you can find loving, non-judgmental people there. But really writing down, like, okay, what are your expenses every month? Business and personal, because those are two separate categories. And if you're a freelancer or an entrepreneur, you have to keep those separate. What are your debts? And I like to call those invoices for blessings already received, because it's such a nice reframe around. Because if I'm thinking about, I have $20,000 worth of debt, it feels really heavy and it feels really awful. And there can be a lot of shame associated with that.
Sure.
Versus if I'm looking at $20,000 worth of invoices for blessings already received, it instantly changes the conversation of, I took that trip to Paris with my girlfriends and I put it on my credit card, and what a blessing, and look at all the ways that trip was really amazing. Or I took this seminar that, I put it on my credit card, and here are all the incredible things I learned from it. So moving from a place of shame and regret to a place of gratitude really lightens the load energetically. And then, of course, that gives you kind of more steam to take the practical action steps to pay off the debt faster. But so certainly getting clear on what everything you have in terms of your net worth, your monthly net, all of that stuff, your debts, and laying it out, because clarity is power, and there is so much energy and freedom that comes from just knowing the truth and just telling yourself the truth, and then maybe telling one other person.
Right. Yeah, no, that's I say in my therapy practice that silence is the partner of shame. And so as long as it's staying silent and hidden, the shame is there. The umbrella of shame and secrets are there. And I think many of us came from families where finances weren't really talked about, or so getting clear on your money story and what are your belief systems and what were the mores in your family and how did your parents deal with money, or what were their approaches. And I know it's interesting for myself. My dad is an entrepreneur, and really this sort of abundance mentality of the universe has your back and things are going to work out, and he's very confident in his abilities. And not afraid to take risks, big risks, taking on a lot of college loans or even credit card debt to, leverage different things. And my mom has a very different approach and much more fear. And for her, taking on any kind of debt it's really uncomfortable. It's actually, it doesn't work for her. And so there's different ways of dealing with it. I kind of have both of those. And so I'm like ping-ponging back and forth. So I really have to find the integrated, healthy, reinvention of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things in the book is the whole first chapter focuses on telling your money love story, your own money love story, and really going into what did you learn about money as a child? Like you shared the differences between the way your parents dealt with it. My parents, very similar, but switched roles. So everybody's got that stuff. And then really telling that story from a place of, here are the ways in which all of the different players and all the different choices I made and all the different choices other people made have served me. And so I've had the feedback that people just doing that one exercise has transformed their relationship with money profoundly, just from telling their money story from a place of love as opposed to from a place of fear or resentment.
I love that. And what, so share a little bit about, how, you came into this book and this material and your own personal journey with your business. And I'd love to hear just a little bit as an entrepreneur and an artist, how you manage that.
Yeah, well, so the book is really accumulation of a workshop I used to teach called Women and Wealth, where I would teach women new ways to think about money and new ways to think about cash flow. So it really had an emotional aspect and kind of the inner work first, and then the outer work of, setting up multiple streams of income and passive and residual income and those sorts of things. So the book is kind of walks you through both the inner and the outer. So it has the practical sides, it has the emotional sides, it has that psychological stuff and the spiritual aspects as well, because I really come from that background. You know, I can't leave spirit out. So that's a very important piece as well, because we as human beings just made money up as a stand-in for what we value. And what we value is a deeply emotional, subjective experience. So what you value might be very different from, although you and I probably have similar values, but like to other people might be really, really different. And so anybody who says that money and business are just logical is just ignoring the truth, which is that we're emotional creatures. And so bringing that to the table and embracing the fact that your financial journey is an emotional one, because what we value is wired in with how we feel. And the only reason we buy things or make certain financial choices or certain life choices around money is because we're hoping to feel a certain way, whether that's secure, whether that's abundant, whether that's safe, whether it's rich. You know, I don't know what it is for different people, but that's what is really kind of the heartbeat of the book, is really getting down to the truth of what money actually is and what it isn't. And from that place, you can make really great decisions, because you're not all screwed up around like fear and the economy and all the crazy stuff that makes us feel like we don't have any power.
I love what you just said, and I remember this from when you spoke at our Live Your Truth, Love Your Life course that I did with Terry, which was so great. We did a whole section on money, and Kate was our expert, of course. But this, like, really drilling down what are your values, or as you know, our friend Danielle Laporte says, your core desired feelings. And for me, it's an interesting delineation in the conversation, because, you know, I grew up in the Midwest in a very sort of traditional family and system of, you know, you go to college, you get married, you buy a house, you have a couple kids, you have a nice stable job. And then I took a very different path. And over the years, especially the last few years, when I've looked at, okay, wow, like I'm in my mid-30s, I should be buying a house, I should be doing this or that. And then when I get to my core desired feelings, I realize, looking back on my financial situation, I really value travel. I really value adventure. I really value my education and my business. I put a lot of money into that. So making decisions based around my value system and not shaming myself for being different than someone else. And yet at the same time, like being smart and the self-trust that comes from, and the confidence really that comes from knowing I'm making decisions that are beneficial in the long run.
And what's so important, that self-trust that you said and self-worth, that's really the crux of the money journey, is when you want to get yourself on the path to financial well-being, it really starts with valuing yourself, because money is just a stand-in for what we value. So if you want to make more money, you got to value yourself more, and beginning to make those choices that honor who you are builds kind of your self-worth bank account. Every time you kind of boldly say, this is what I'm going to do because this is what I value, it's like ranks, you know, it kicks it up a notch. And you'll notice, those of you listening, as you start to make those declarations and those choices, you'll start to make more money. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, and it does attract. So what are some, just the last few minutes, what are some tools or tips that you would recommend for people to start to shapeshift their belief systems, or if they're stuck in fear, scarcity, shame, overwhelm? What are some tools for people to use to really get into the core, to the source of where that's coming from?
Well, so I really love, this one is what I started with when I was in debt and I couldn't get it together, despite all my efforts trying to. I just started myself on a very simple program of checking my bank account balance every morning. And I probably shared this in the Live Your Truth course. I still have the reminder in my calendar, 8:30 every morning, check your bank account balance, because I was in such avoidance, and this is really common vagueness and avoidance, that I didn't even know it was in my bank account. So checking my bank account balance every morning, and so that's what you can do, you know, you just online, and then giving gratitude for what's there. And then there might be some days, even occasionally, when the bank account balance is negative, depending on what situation you're in. I know for me, some days it was, because you go into overdraft or whatever. And on those days, I spent extra energy focusing on gratitude for the ways my life was abundant. So for the roof over my head, for having a bed, for having some food in the refrigerator, beautiful friends, whatever it was. So focusing on what we love about our financial situation, of course, attracts more of that kind of vibration. And so that's a great place to start. It's both practical so that you also know what's in your bank account balance so that you don't spend more than you have. So it's practical, but then it also gets you into that kind of juicy place of gratitude, which is just, it's undeniably attractive to the universe.
Abundance, right?
Yeah, abundance. So that's one thing. And then the next thing would be, I think, gathering a posse of girlfriends around you who want to take the money love journey with you. You can use my book as a guide. There are so many other guides that you can use. Even just sitting down and talking about money once a month or something like that, and forming like a little money love circle so that you can hold one another accountable. What else is great about that is you won't get swept up into spending decisions because you want to belong or fit in. Like if everybody's going to Vegas for a weekend and you know you don't have the funds to support that, if you have this group of support that you know they're holding you accountable to live in alignment with your financial reality, you won't make those choices as much.
I'm literally working with one of my therapy clients right now on boundaries with friends or going out to dinner. And let me just ask you, this is like such a practical question. What is your approach around going out to dinner when it's a group dinner and then everybody starts ordering all this stuff and then everybody wants to split at the end of the meal? And you're like, wait a second, I'm on a budget. I just ordered an appetizer and no wine because I don't have the money. So how do you deal with that?
I love to recommend that people just let people know up front. And you don't have to be weird about it. You don't have to be all like tight and like,
no drama,
trolling. Just say, hey guys, I'm working on my own money consciousness. And I'm just going to have a salad and appetizer, so I'll make it super easy. I'll let them know ahead of time to bring me a separate check, but I just wanted to let you know so there wasn't any problem at the end. And I've had people come to dinner with me in a group and say something to that effect, and they keep it light. They don't make themselves wrong. They don't make anybody else wrong. It'll take you like 3 seconds to say that. And then you don't have to be worried about it because, oh, Lord, have I been at those dinners where everybody else is drinking 5 cocktails. And, and I don't drink, and so that always makes my bill lower and all that stuff. Sometimes I just decide I've enjoyed the company enough and I'm totally happy to just split the bill if I'm in that place. And so that's also a choice you can make. But if you really don't have the money, just say something up front, and it's great. And then I'll also have friends email me ahead of time to let me know, like, hey, can we pick an inexpensive place to eat this week because I'm really working on, they'll say I'm watching what I spend or however you want to say it. But I would really choose your wording accordingly because what we say has power. So you could say, I'm really working on my financial consciousness would be better than I can't afford a dinner out.
Right. Yeah. Very important. And I think the other piece of that is it's building the muscle, right? Building the internal muscle of I'm taking responsibility. I'm 100% responsible for all my choices, the money that I spend. And the more we say it and the more we practice speaking with no drama, just a lightness and a truth, it becomes easier until it becomes effortless. And it's just the natural way. And then it's not a big deal at all.
Exactly.
So it's not like there's tension among the group or, like you said, no need to shame yourself or anyone else.
Yeah. And if your friends are having trouble with that for some reason, then you might want to question who you are spending time with.
Exactly.
Because a real friend will really support and applaud you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good point. So is there anything else before we wrap up that you really want to leave everyone with or a resource?
Yeah, I just would love to say that the journey with your money will reveal things that will be so surprising and fabulous to you about yourself and your life, and you'll deepen your relationship with yourself on such a profound level when you start looking into your money stuff. And I promise you, it does not have to be hard. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I really set up my work and set up the book to be fun and pleasurable. And really be like, have a good time with this stuff because you're going to be dealing with money the rest of your life. So you might as well have fun with it.
And I love that because the finances are connected to the first and the second chakra. And so it's really about, pleasure. The second chakra is all about pleasure and enjoyment and desire and managing our desires with healthy boundaries. But enjoying it is very important, and it's love. Money is love.
Money is love. Yeah,
a love story. Thank you so much. So the book is Money, a Love Story, and you can get it on katenorthrup.com. It comes out this week, so check it out, and we will definitely have Kate back. Leave us your messages, your comments below. Let us know exactly what your concerns and challenges are with money, so we can respond.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to see you in, New York sometime very soon.
Yes.
Take care.